Good evening. My name is Presley Pantine, and I'm the salon owner and HR manager of the salon Penelope Pitstop.
Hi everybody, my name is Casey Capital. I'm from Victorian Chambers of Commerce and I'm here today to represent Presley and her interests.
Hi, I'm Gilly Glamour. I'm an employee in Penelope Pitstop. I'm the employee representative.
Hi everyone, I'm Lane League and I'm the union representative. I've been a part of the Hairstyles Australia Union for 6 months.
Now moving on to hours of work, overtime and penalties. So what we want to do is our managers, we want to open the salons on weekdays at 5 a.m. Instead of 7 a.m. so that people can come in during work and then go. It's in both our interests that this works because we're extending the amount of hours available for you to work and earn money. However, paying you the penalty rates at this time, it's not going to work financially. We'll be running at a loss.
I totally see where you're coming from that. But working the 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. that's not in the industry norm. So it's working unsocial hours. It's taking away time that those people have, the employees have with their children, with their friends. Taking their children to school and they're missing out on valuable time and moments. So they should definitely be compensated through penalty rates.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm trying to do here. So that's what I'm going to propose to you is that we reduce your penalty rates. So you're still getting them, but we're just going to reduce it a bit from time and a half to time and a quarter. But what I'm also going to do is give you $1.30 extra per hour, all days of the week. So I'm raising your wage. And I'd like to offer you all an employee ownership scheme of 5% on top of this.
Well, Presley, I feel like you're being a bit generous here. So a penalty rate of time and a quarter, that's very generous. But that should stay. I believe that's perfectly fine because you guys get to keep your penalty rate. And $1.30 increase per hour seems really reasonable as well. I believe this would somewhat meet the boot test and it'd be still higher than what you would have ordinarily received per hour. But what I don't agree is the employee ownership scheme. I believe that's actually a bit too generous in the sense where the active employer, Presley, you'll be losing too much money that way. So I believe you guys should either choose the ownership scheme or choose the penalty rates. But I don't think both of them are feasible together.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from, and I think that those hours do need to be compensated for. I think that currently it's at time and a half, and so dropping that down is obviously a big sacrifice for these employees who are already living week to week and paycheck to paycheck. So they definitely need to be compensated. I think an ownership scheme, in addition to that, would be great, but obviously you can't guarantee how much they're going to actually be making. It's 5%, but 5% of what you would never know exactly what that amount would be.
Well, according to the awards about defining ordinary working time on weekdays is 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So working at 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. is overtime working hour and would definitely attract time and a half penalty rates. That is what we're supposed to have under the awards. However, to make everyone better off with the considered boot test, I can take a cut for the penalty rate. But I'm expecting something that will compensate our sacrifice. The employee ownership could be a good idea. That would be the best way. We get fair salary and motivation to work, and you get extra working time.
And I totally reckon I could be willing to accept a lower penalty rate if we're getting that additional $1.30. I think that makes up for it and makes more money for the economy, more money for your business. The employees get that extra time and that extra money to be able to be compensated for that time that they're losing.
Following the incident we just had in one of our salons recently, I think we definitely need to discuss the first aid allowance and safety training in our salons. I really want staff to be motivated to take on this training, and I think the 1.3% increase on salary just isn't going to do it. So I am happy to increase these to 2%.
2%? That's above the industry award. That's really high. 1.3 is sufficient actually. It doesn't need to be anything higher than that. The award's fine.
Well, let me tell you a story. I was asked by my manager to get a first aid qualification, but I rejected. Because it's too much responsibility, and clearly the 1.3 allowance shows that it doesn't really valued by the company. Currently, there's only one employee has first aid training, and it's not enough. I'm expecting a 4% salary allowance to take this great responsibility.
Yeah, I completely see where you're coming from. Obviously, employees need to feel like empowered that in a situation where first aid is needed, that they are able to deal with that situation. There's obviously a lot of hazards in the hair and beauty industry, like cords, and also the clients coming in could have previous medical history that they need to take care of, and so obviously they need to be motivated to do this course. And I'd be willing to increase the. Obviously, it needs to be above the 1.3%, as you were saying, as that's not even the industry average. The industry average is 2%, and that we are currently below it. So raising that to 2% would be beneficial, I think, for all parties.
By considering the protest, I could take a 2%. Maybe it would be the better of choice.
A business to be seen as one that values safety of employees and its clients. So this is something I really want to take on board for my business.
And I also believe that more employees need to be first aid qualified. So I think we need to increase the amount of employees that have it. Maybe all managers and senior staff definitely should be required to have this qualification. And I would even suggest that a quarter of the workforce, 25%, definitely need to have this to be equipped to deal with these situations.
I agree somewhat that more employees and staff do need it, but we can't have newbies picking up such an important responsibility as well, such an important role. So what I suggest is that 25%, if you guys are happy, that 25% be only consistent of managers and senior staff, people who are actually familiar with Presley's company, familiar with all the steps and procedures, and not newcomers or newbies. And as in terms of the 2%, I believe that you're correct, that we can meet halfway. Even though the award says 1.3, I still stand by that could be sufficient too. But we can meet you halfway.
Yeah, just as you were saying, the 25% managers and staff, I completely agree that they definitely need to be trained. So that would be, I would be willing to do that. And then the rest would be filled up with employees who have experience and been in the company for long periods of time. They're up to the manager's discretion if they are allowed to be qualified or not.
Yeah, that is exactly what I would want for my business. Yeah, and 2% is a very fair, and I can definitely afford that.
Yeah, this will definitely help Presley save some money in those work costs.
So a 2% increase for those who have the safety training, and 25% of staff.
Perfect.
The managers.
Managers and staff.
Yeah, amazing. Let's now discuss the breaks. So obviously the work cover claims at the moment have increased drastically, and I do personally think that the current award is inadequate. So I would like to introduce a 10-minute paid break after each client, provided they have long hair, because short hair just isn't taxing on the wrists and arms.
Yeah, I agree with Presley, but we really need to stress on the definition of this long hair, because doing short hair isn't that stressful, and it doesn't actually require too many hand movements.
Yeah, look, I have to disagree on that. I think that obviously if something's not working, there's been multiple claims of the work cover due to repetitive strain, and that includes short hair as well. I don't think it matters really on the length. It's still quite taxing on the arms and the wrists. And I think that, Presley, you owe a responsibility to your employees to provide a safe working environment. And so breaks after every client is necessary regardless of hair length.
It may actually result in too many breaks and too many workers outside of the work environment. So that's a factor to consider.
Well, many of the hairdressing staff complain about their taxing arm after doing the hairdressing work, their arm ache, and some taking time off because of the repetitive strain injuries. I'm really concerned that more breaks are needed for the hairdressing staff to remain a safety working environment. What I can accept is 10 minutes paid break after each client, regardless the length of the hair. This is the best way to make sure the performance of the hairdressing staff is on the quality standard, to also make sure our customers satisfied. Reputation is really important for our salon. It's better off overall.
Okay, let me propose something to you then, because I want my staff to be healthy and not in pain, so that they can perform. I will offer you guys a 10-minute paid break after every client. To compensate for this, I'll reduce your lunch break from 45 minutes to half an hour.
Yeah, so currently in the award, yeah, it is a 45-minute to 60-minute lunch break, but
But the
obviously I
award
can see where you're
says
coming
that's
from. but-
negotiable.
Yeah, definitely, and I agree that if we're introducing more regular breaks throughout the day, that after lunchtime, that would be after a few clients, that we do get a longer unpaid break. I'd be willing to accept that if we're upping the breaks throughout the day.
Yes, that would be better off for the employee because we're going to be giving you more breaks that are paid and a shorter break, even though it's only 15 minutes shorter, it's unpaid. So you're better off than what the award is actually giving you right now.
So physically and financially, what
Yeah,
I'm
actually,
proposing is in your best interest.
Yeah, it's good.
And I think that's a safe work environment for all employees. So
Yeah.
we can-
Yeah.
It'll
very
save a
well.
lot in work cover costs as well.
Perfect.
Yes.
So now let's talk about the changes to rosters of hours of work, changes to the rosters, and let's just really define what an emergency is, just so we've got consistency across all of our salons.
Yeah, I definitely think that needs to be done. Yeah, it's very confusing with every manager at different locations not having the same understanding of what an emergency consists of. So yeah, we definitely need to define what an emergency is.
So what would the union suggest?
Yeah, obviously not everything can be planned for and emergencies do come up and yeah, it's something that can't be planned for. So we would say that it's something as unexpected that suddenly happens and immediate action needs to be placed. You just have to drop everything and go attend to the emergency.
I totally agree with that, but I feel like we need to narrow that definition down a little bit. I feel like it should be to all emergent matters pertaining to the employee themselves or their dependents. Now, I reckon the dependents could also be, not only just children and sick or elderly, but your pets as well. So like an emergency pet needs, the pet needs to go to the hospital or whatever. But that should be also.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from with that. Just for the union, it's more about the individual employers themselves. So what wouldn't consist of an emergency would be a child who's been ill for 5 days and you have to take off work to tend to them. That's definitely not an emergency. But if you're in a car accident and you cannot attend work, then that would be an emergency as you can't plan it and it needs immediate action that you
And
can't
that would
work.
fall under what Casey and I believe in, sudden injury or illness. That's what that would feel. That would come under. So we do need to really narrow it down because every employee has got their own idea of what's an emergency to them. So I'm on the same page as Casey. A sudden injury or illness to the employee or the dependents. Just leave it at that. That is what an emergency is.
Are we happy with that definition?
Yeah, but I feel like the emergency for pets should be excluded from the provision because it's like I heard some complaints from our store. Some of our colleagues have a sick dog and is always taking a day off. And when they take the day off, the other workers need to work in the shifts.
Yeah.
But it's quite annoying,
No, I understand.
And that's why we want to narrow it down for you.
Yeah.
So how do you feel with that definition that we've provided?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
works?
that works for me.
And the dependents are only inclusive of employees themselves or relatives, children, no pets.
Yes.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Awesome.
So on to how they're actually how roster changes are approved. I think there also needs to be some clarification on that. Currently, it's a bit confusing for employees to understand what would be accepted and what would not be acceptable.
Yeah, I think we should just always have it in writing, and if it is done over phone call, then follow up and put it in writing.
Yeah, and would a text message be acceptable for that?
I think that is acceptable. Yes.
Yeah, if the record is kept,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be acceptable.
So verbal is okay. So I believe that should be acceptable to be over a phone call and then it was followed up by writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about termination. So at the moment, employees that have been with us for under a year, I want to be able to terminate them on the spot. Reason being is they've been with us for under a year, employing them as a risk. You don't really know what their skills are, their capabilities, how good they are at doing hair. And by giving them a week's notice, I'm allowing them to still work on customers and clients, and that affects the reputation of my business if it's not up to my salon standards. So if they have been with us for under a year, I would like to be able to terminate them on the spot.
Yeah, I agree with Sally there. It makes good business sense for employees that aren't actually experienced. So if they're poor performers and they're not actually abiding by the policies, for them to be terminated immediately if the tenure is under a year.
Well, I believe that all employees, irrespective of how long they have already worked for the organization, they should have some notice before they have been terminated. So, according to the awards, the minimum notice period for people who working 1 year or less than 1 year should get a minimum notice period of 1 week.
Yeah, I also agree with that. And just the Fairer Commission under the National Employee Standards is for employees under 12 months, they get a 1 week's notice. So that's the National Employee Standard.
And that's what we're here for. We're bargaining on that to change that. So I want to change that.
Yeah, I think that all employees are entitled to notice, and they need to be protected, and they can't fear job security, like coming into work every day not knowing if they're going to be fired on the spot.
Yeah, sure. I believe we can provide job security in a different way that is not detrimental to the business and the business reputation.
And this is only employees that have been with us for under a year that this is applying to. So vast majority of employees have been with us for longer than that. So it's really not applying to many employees at all. So everyone else will still get their notice. It's just those few employees that have been with us for under a year.
Yeah, look, I'm not really willing to just get rid of notice completely. Yeah, I think that they definitely need to feel protected, and as you were saying, that they definitely do need to feel valued in the.
Yeah, so definitely. So what Presley and the business can do to give you guys that job security in exchange for immediate termination is that we could give you outplacement services, so we can help you transition into another job and find another position. So you're well secure in another position by the time you leave.
Yeah, I think outplacement services would be an alternative.
But what we would do on top of that, so we'll pay for outplacement services. I like that idea, Casey. But I'm also willing to increase the job search entitlement to 2 days for those who have been dismissed on the spot.
Okay, I'm happy with the 2 days of paid job research.
Yeah, I think that that's a great alternative as well to the minimum 1 week, which is required. But yeah, I'd be willing to have an outplacement service. I think that would really benefit them, and they aren't fearing that job security because they know that they would be able to find a job afterwards. A basic package, how much?
A basic package, from my experience, is just $350. I've worked with many employers, and a basic package is $350.
Yeah, look, I think though if we're sacrificing that 1 week's notice, that definitely needs to be bumped up and lifted up to really support these workers. And I would say $500 per employee would be reasonable if we're sacrificing that 1 week.
Yeah, if we make it $500, I would like to reduce the job search entitlement that I've offered to double back to just the 1 day.
Yeah, both of them together is a bit too much for the company to do, because if you're going to take on both outplacement and 2 days for job search entitlement, we can't afford that. That's not feasible financially.
So what would you rather, the outplacement services or the job search entitlement? What's more valuable?
I'm happy as long as we're still keeping that 1 day. If we do get the $500 outplacement as well on addition.
Also, I'm happy with that.
I'm happy with that.
Employees under a year can be dismissed on the spot, provided that they get the outplacement services worth $500 and the 1 day job search entitlement.
Perfect.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you for your time. I'm glad that we've reached an agreement that has everyone's best interests in mind. So just an overall summary. So regarding hours of work and overtime penalties, starting at 5 o'clock, staff will get time and a quarter penalty rates and a $1.30 increase throughout the week on their wages. Taking breaks, staff will receive a 10-minute paid break after each client and a 30-minute lunch break as well. In terms of the first aid allowance, 2% first aid allowance and 25% of staff, inclusive of management and senior staff, must take that training. Termination, staff that have been with the salon for under a year can be terminated on the spot, provided that the salon gives them a $500 outplacement package and 1 day job search entitlement. And consultation about changes to rosters and hours of work, we agreed that we are happy with our definition of what an emergency is, and a verbal confirmation is fine as long as it's followed up in writing, as we think all of these definitely meet the Better Off overall test.